I was 29 years old when I realized something was wrong with my life. Not dramatically wrong. I had a job. I paid my bills. I had some savings. I wasn't broke. And from the outside, I probably looked responsible. But every month felt exactly the same. My salary came in. My expenses went out. I saved a little. Then I waited for the next paycheck. That cycle repeated for years. Work, earn, spend, save, wait. One night, I came home exhausted after another long day in IT support. I opened my banking app and stared at the number on the screen. Then I asked myself a question I had been avoiding for years. If I keep living exactly like this, what will my life look like when I'm 39? And the answer scared me. Maybe I would earn a little more. Maybe I would have a newer car. Maybe I would have a little more money in the bank. But the system would still be the same. I would still need to wake up and work for every dollar. If I stopped working, the money would stop too. That was the moment I understood something. My real problem wasn't that I didn't work hard enough. My problem was that all of my income depended on my time, and I had no more time to sell. I didn't want a second job. I didn't want to work every night. I didn't want to sacrifice every weekend. I needed a different way to think about money. A few weeks later, I met Jasper. He was 63. People in town knew him as a wealthy businessman. But what impressed me wasn't his house. It wasn't his car. It was his time. He never seemed rushed. He could have coffee in the middle of a Tuesday. He could spend time with family. He could leave town for a few days without worrying about losing his income. One afternoon, I asked him, "How did you get to the point where you don't have to chase money every day?" He smiled and said, "I still work, Calvin. The difference is, not all of my money depends on the work I do today." That sentence changed the way I saw money. Jasper explained that passive income doesn't mean doing nothing. It means building an asset, system, business, investment, product, or service that can continue creating value without demanding all of your time every single day. You still have to work. You usually have to work hard at the beginning, but eventually, the goal is to reduce the direct relationship between 1 hour of your time and $1 of your income. Then Jasper gave me 7 principles. And over the next 5 years, those 7 principles completely changed my financial life. The first thing Jasper taught me was the least exciting: save money. I remember feeling disappointed. I wanted some secret strategy. I wanted him to tell me what to invest in, what business to start, what opportunity could make me rich. Instead, he asked me, "If the right opportunity appeared tomorrow, how much money could you actually put into it?" I had no good answer. That question exposed the truth. I wanted investment returns before I had investment capital. For years, I saved whatever was left at the end of the month. The problem was that very little was left. So I changed the order. I started saving first. Before entertainment. Before upgrades. Before unnecessary spending. Some months it was $50. Some months $100. Sometimes more. The number wasn't the important part. The habit was. Saving gave me something more important than cash. It gave me options. It also trained me to delay gratification. And Jasper gave me one warning I never forgot. Don't borrow money to invest in something you don't understand. That saved me from a lot of stupid decisions. Because impatience makes people dangerous. They want to go faster. So they borrow. They use leverage. They take risks they don't understand. Then one mistake becomes a financial disaster. I learned that the first goal wasn't to get rich quickly. The first goal was to build enough capital and knowledge to stay in the game. For the first few months, nothing exciting happened. I simply saved, and that boring discipline became the foundation for everything that came later. A few months later, I nearly made a decision that would have slowed me down badly. I almost bought a new car. My old car worked perfectly fine, but one coworker bought a newer model. Then another did the same. Suddenly, I started noticing everything I hated about mine. The scratches, the old interior, the outdated technology. I started looking at financing options. I calculated monthly payments. I imagined how much better I would feel pulling into work in something newer. Then I remembered a question Jasper had asked me. Will this purchase make you richer or only make you look richer? That question stopped me. I closed the browser, and from that point on, I started looking at every major purchase differently. I asked myself, what else could this money become? $1,000 could become a new phone, or it could become equipment, software, marketing, education, a small investment. a business tool, something that could create value in the future. I didn't stop spending. I didn't become cheap, but I stopped spending automatically. I stopped buying things because other people had them. I stopped confusing appearance with financial progress. That was a huge shift, because a lot of people are not actually becoming wealthy. They're becoming more expensive. Their income increases, then their lifestyle increases at the same speed. New car, bigger apartment, more subscriptions, more expensive habits, and eventually, they still have nothing working for them. I realized that every dollar had two possible jobs. It could make me feel good today, or it could help create capacity for tomorrow. That doesn't mean you should never enjoy your money. It means you should know what you're trading away when you spend it. The third principle changed the way I looked at the world. Jasper told me, stop looking at everything like a customer. Start looking at it like a problem solver. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Then he explained, when you see a busy restaurant, don't only think about what you want to eat. Ask why customers keep coming back. When you see complaints, ask what people are frustrated enough to pay to fix. When you see businesses struggling, ask what problem is costing them time or money. He wanted me to stop moving through the world only as a consumer. So I started paying attention, and slowly, I began noticing something obvious. Small businesses around me were constantly struggling with technical problems. Website updates, online support, software setup, email systems, basic automation, simple digital tasks. To them, these things were frustrating. To me, they were normal. I had spent almost 10 years working in IT support, and suddenly I realized I already had something valuable. I had a skill that solved real problems. I just never thought of that skill as an asset. I had always thought, this is what my employer pays me to do. I had never asked, who else would pay me to do this? That single question opened a door. I started talking to local businesses. I listened more carefully to their problems. I noticed where they were wasting time. I noticed what they didn't understand. I noticed where I could help. That was when I learned a lesson I still believe today. Your first opportunity may not require you to become someone completely different. It may already be hiding inside something you know, your skill, your experience, your network, your equipment, your knowledge, your time, your small amount of savings. The question is not always, what do I need to learn? Sometimes the better question is, what do I already have that somebody else values? Finding the opportunity was not the hardest part. Starting was. Once I had the idea, I did what many people do. I researched. Then I researched more. I watched videos. I compared software. I built spreadsheets. I changed the business name. I redesigned the website. I made plans. Then more plans. I told myself I was preparing, but really I was scared. One day Jasper asked me, how many customers do you have? I said, none yet. I'm still preparing. He looked at me and said, no, you're hiding. That hurt, because he was right. I wasn't afraid of the business. I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid someone would ignore me. I was afraid someone would say no. I was afraid I would discover that I wasn't good enough. So I kept preparing, because preparation felt safer than reality. But eventually, I understood something. There is a point where preparation stops being useful. After that point, preparation becomes procrastination. So I started small, very small. I upgraded my laptop, bought only the software I needed, built a simple website. Then I contacted local businesses. The first one ignored me. The second one ignored me too. The third said no. For a few days, I felt embarrassed. Then somebody replied. They had a small technical problem. I solved it. They paid me. I remember looking at that first payment. It wasn't much money, but it felt completely different from my paycheck. For the first time in years, I had earned money outside my job. That payment did something important. It replaced theory with proof. It proved I could create value outside the system I was already in. And once I had that proof, everything became easier. Not easy, just easier. Small action gave me something planning never could. Real feedback. I learned that starting small wasn't weakness. It was intelligent risk management. Small mistakes are survivable. Small experiments are cheap. Small successes can be expanded. You don't need to start big. You need to start real. A few months later, my small service started making more money. Not a lot, but enough to feel exciting. And almost immediately, My brain started looking for things to buy. A better TV, a trip, a nicer phone, maybe finally upgrade the car. I told Jasper that I wanted to reward myself. He smiled and said, "You've finally grown a seed, and now you want to eat it." That line stayed with me, because that's exactly what I was about to do. I had worked to create a new source of income, and instead of strengthening it, I wanted to consume the result. So I changed my approach. I reinvested part of the profits. Better tools, better software, a cleaner website, marketing, automation, systems, things that could improve the business, and something interesting started happening. The work became easier. Tasks that used to take 3 hours began taking 2, then 1. Some things became templates, some became checklists, some became automated. I wasn't starting from zero every time anymore. That was the first moment I truly understood what it meant for money to begin working for me. It wasn't some magical passive income machine. It was reinvestment. It was systems. It was using today's profit to create tomorrow's capacity. The income was still connected to my effort, but the connection was getting weaker. I was slowly building something that could produce more value without requiring the same amount of time from me. That is when money stopped being only something I earned and spent. It became something I could deploy. Once the first income stream started working, I made another mistake. I got excited. Too excited. Suddenly, I wanted to build everything: stocks, real estate, digital products, online business, consulting, content, e-commerce, anything that could make money. I thought multiple income streams meant doing multiple things immediately. Jasper disagreed. He said, "Don't confuse diversification with distraction." Then he explained something that saved me years of wasted effort. If you build 10 weak income streams, you don't have financial security. You have 10 unfinished problems, he told me. Stabilize the first one, then build the second. So I stayed focused. I improved my service. I made the system stronger. I built a more predictable client base. I improved the process. I made the income more reliable. Only after that did I begin building another asset. That was the difference. I didn't abandon the first income stream to chase a new opportunity. I used the strength of the first to help create the second. That gave me a completely different perspective on diversification. Diversification is not about doing everything. It is about reducing dependence, and you reduce dependence best when every new source has a solid foundation. So I built one, then another, slowly. That was less exciting than chasing 10 ideas, but it was far more effective. The seventh principle was the hardest. Patience. Nobody likes that answer, especially when you feel behind. At 29, I felt like I had already wasted too much time. So once I understood the system, I wanted results immediately. But financial progress doesn't care about your urgency. The first year was slow, very slow. From the outside, my life looked almost the same. Same job, same car, same apartment. No luxury lifestyle, no dramatic transformation, no overnight success. But underneath the surface, something was changing. I had more savings. I had a side business. I had better skills. I had systems. I had confidence. I had proof that I could earn money outside my salary. And this is exactly where most people quit. The beginning looks boring. You save for months and nothing exciting happens. You start a business and almost nobody responds. You invest and the account barely moves. You publish work and nobody notices. You improve your system and there is no instant reward. So people quit. Then they try something else. Then something else. Then something else. 5 years later, they have started 15 things and built nothing. I decided I wasn't going to repeat that cycle. So I stayed. I kept saving. I kept improving. I kept reinvesting. I kept building. I accepted slow progress. And over time, slow progress became visible progress. That was the lesson. Consistency feels weak in the beginning. Then time multiplies it. 3 months after meeting Jasper, I had saved enough to make my first serious investment into the service. I upgraded my tools, improved my website, bought better software, and started working with real clients. By month 6, I had several small customers. I still kept my full-time job. I didn't quit. I didn't do anything dramatic. I simply used the job to fund the next stage. By the end of year 1, my side income was still smaller than my salary. But it was real. and that mattered. For the first time in my adult life, my employer was not the only source of money in my life. In year 2, I improved the system. I became better at sales, better at delivery, better at understanding what clients actually wanted. Some processes became automated, some became repeatable. The income became more predictable. Then during years 2 and 3, I started building a second income-producing asset. I used the first stream to help fund the next one. Now I had 3 layers: my salary, my first side income, and a second asset. Years 4 and 5 were not glamorous. They were disciplined. I controlled spending. I kept reinvesting. I avoided upgrading my lifestyle every time my income increased. I learned, I improved, I stayed focused, and when I turned 34, I was not a millionaire. I wasn't living in a mansion. I wasn't driving a Lamborghini, but I had something far more important: options. If one client left, I didn't panic. If something changed at work, I had breathing room. If I wanted to take time off, it didn't feel impossible. Money was now coming from more than one place. Some of it still required my direct effort. Some of it required much less. And for the first time in my adult life, I no longer felt like one paycheck controlled my entire future. For years, I thought financial freedom meant becoming so rich that you never had to work again. Now I think that's the wrong definition. Financial freedom is not about escaping work. It's about gaining choices. The choice to say no. The choice to walk away from a bad job. The choice to spend more time with your family. The choice to take care of your health. The choice to survive when one source of income disappears. The choice to work because you want to, not because missing one paycheck would destroy everything. And the strange part is that financial freedom doesn't begin when you become rich. It begins much earlier. It begins when you save your first dollar intentionally. That's principle 1. It begins when you stop buying things just to impress people. That's principle 2. It begins when you start seeing problems as opportunities. That's principle 3. It begins when you take action before you feel completely ready. That's principle 4. It begins when you reinvest instead of consuming every profit. That's principle 5. It begins when you build one strong income source before chasing another. That's principle 6. And it grows when you stay patient long enough for all of those decisions to compound. That's principle 7. If I could go back and talk to my 29-year-old self, I wouldn't tell him to quit his job. I wouldn't tell him to gamble on a hot investment. I wouldn't tell him to take some insane risk. I would tell him something much simpler. Save first. Control your spending. Look for opportunities. Start small. Reinvest. Build one thing at a time. And stay patient. Because 5 years are going to pass anyway. The real question is what you will own at the end of those 5 years. Will you still depend on one paycheck? Will every dollar still require another hour of your time? Or will you have assets, skills, systems, and income streams that continue working even when you are not? I spent almost 10 years believing that working harder was the answer. It wasn't. Hard work matters. But hard work without ownership can become a treadmill. You keep moving. You keep sweating. You keep getting tired. But you never really get anywhere. Everything changed when I stopped asking, how much harder can I work? And started asking, what can I build? That is the question that changed my life. And maybe it can change yours too.